YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, and today we're going over NFL draft stock report. Whose stock is up, whose is down, and we're mainly focusing on the positive here. Whose stock is up, some climbers for the NFL draft based on pro days, the latest buzz, but at the end of the video, we'll talk about a few guys whose stock unfortunately has gone down. So we'll break this down. We have a recent video with boomer bust prospects, breaking down a lot of those guys. Recent mock drafts up, definitely more to come. I already wanted to update mine. We got member mock drafts going using walktomock.com. What you see underneath me, use code GOATHOUSE if you sign up. We're always holding those and uploading them. Yeah, a lot of content on the way, so join us for that. Subscribe. Follow us on Twitter for breaking news, a fan-voted mock on there. Yeah, here's the fan-voted mock. Currently on the Dolphins pick, which is definitely an interesting one, but Jamar Chase is leading the way here. So yeah, maybe if you want to jump in there and change the vote. But we're going to keep going on with this every pick in the first round, of course, and we'll make a video. But first stock up, Davis Mills has been getting some hype. He was kind of getting some hype before his pro day. Then he has his pro day in the pouring rain and looks pretty smooth as well. So, maybe that helped him, that it was a little bit more challenging. So that's fantastic. Kind of before, I guess it's kind of old. It's not super old news, but it's kind of old news that he was moving up into round 2. I don't think it took his pro day. I think it took people, finally starting to get around to the film. Everyone knows from live games, mainly about the big time guys. But yeah, so people were starting to move him up, towards round 2. Then he has his pro day, more people watching film. But mainly that pro day kind of solidifies his stance. I think interviewing with teams as well, because when you meet with teams, they kind of give you a test. They almost give you a test your knowledge. And apparently he's a pretty knowledgeable guy here for the NFL for pro style offense. It makes sense because he's coming from a pro style offense, so that all checks out. From what I've heard, he's not going to get out of round 2. You start to wonder, could a guy like this sneak into late round 1? My problem with that is, this was like 10 years ago, 5-10 years ago, he'd probably go well into round 1 because he's kind of get that old school pro style feeling to him. Today, kind of the freaky dudes, the kids that can run in at least the 4.6s, 4.5s, and can throw the ball, deep downfield, no problem. Those guys are the guys going at the top. So I think the era changing a little bit. He was a top recruit, 5-star recruit, so he was kind of expected to be very solid. And some coaching staffs, maybe, scouts, front office, they actually, some of them, not all of them, but some of them will really value that. This guy was great in high school, with our coaching over Stanford's coaching, maybe, even though they got a good coaching staff, pro-style coaching staff there. We can get him to be that guy he was supposed to be. And he has limited reps, so he does have upside. maybe just missing that wow, He doesn't have crazy speed, escapability, or that laser ball. You can throw downfield. He's pretty accurate, but that laser ball downfield. I kind of see maybe the high-end Kirk Cousins, which is pretty solid right now, and maybe the low end. It probably can be even lower in this, but I see kind of a Kirk Cousins to Daniel Jones, the way Daniel Jones is playing right now. That's kind of what I see, and he probably fits. Daniel Jones is better prospect overall. He was, and he has more upside, I'd say, more wow ability to him. But Mills could probably fit in the middle of that. He could be a solid game manager with a potential to be more. But I think he's a round 2 guy now for what I'm hearing. Let's see if he sneaks up into the first. I just don't think it happens, but stock is definitely up after the pro day mainly. Kenneth Gainwell. I was talking about him on Twitter a long time ago. Just another one of those Memphis guys. Like, is he a receiver or is he a running back? There's been Tony Pollard, Antonio Gibson, Kenneth Gainwell. They always end up being running backs, and I always grade them as running backs, coming out. Same thing with Kenneth Gainwell. I like his tape. He has that receiving ability from the backfield, in the backfield, running the route back there, downfield, lining up in slot, outside, running the route down there. Really good catching downfield. I don't know if I've seen – there's not too many running backs I see catch the back shoulder like him. They trust him quite a bit. They've scored some big plays on the back shoulder to Kenneth Gainwell. That is impressive. Pretty solid vision, home run hitter. A lot of those home run plays are, he deserves credit on them, but a lot of them were pretty big holes and nobody really in the back end. You kind of just had to just go, beat maybe one guy on an angle. But he definitely does deserve credit there, hitting the hole, using his speed. I guess the problem with him, even though he had a pretty good tape, was a little undersized. These top tier backs, the backs everyone's looking for to be the starter, they got to have good size. Antonio Gibson's kind of been the one that worked out the best, even though he's only played 1 year, because he has a running back build. He's a fantastic running back in general. That extra is that, the extra receiving ability is the bonus. Gainwell, can he be an excellent running back with that bonus? You worry about the weight. Not that it's a negative, but you wish he was heavier. And then, since he's, not in terms of that size, you wish he was maybe a little faster, because if a guy's going to be smaller, he has to be a lot faster. But what did he do at his pro day? He showed up a good amount heavier, almost 10 pounds heavier, and he ran, in low 4.4s in his 40, which is fantastic. So he shows he's improving this year off. He was improving. He's getting better. He can adapt. He can improve to where the NFL teams want him to get. So, yeah, improvement and upside he showed there. So really the negatives are kind of just, those really weren't big negatives, because if it's kind of, I don't really care where your weight's at. If you can play, you can play. And he kind of fixed those issues. So big time stock up, was kind of in that round 4 range. Now I don't think he gets out of round 3, but we'll see. He could be, there's a clear top 3 running backs. I think most people have running back 4 as Michael Carter. But I don't think that's set. I think Gainwell could take that running back 4 spot there, especially after this pro day. So stock up for him. Elijah Moore, you guys know I've been hyping up Elijah Moore. I think his pro day just helped him. It didn't really help, it didn't really boost him up my board. I kind of already had him, middle of the first round. But it kind of solidifies that. But a lot more people talking about him now. There's other people coming out saying they talk to teams. Yeah, he's gonna go in the first round. Middle, late first round, in that range. I think he should go middle. You watch the tape, and it just stands out. He's one of the best route runners. That's number one. We're talking about receivers today. Footwork and route running ability, top tier in this class. He's sure-handed, so good after the catch. Making people miss, breaking tackles. But then sometimes, these slot receivers like this are dominating in today, but sometimes to feel more comfortable, you want the total package. You want him to be able to play outside, like Justin Jefferson last year. He was safe because he was a slot receiver, but we knew he can play outside, and he did that in Minnesota year 1. Elijah Moore had some good moments outside. He's mainly a slot receiver. He dominates there, but he's got some good moments outside as well. So you love that. But he shows up his pro day, runs into 4.3s. It all matches up on tape. Great hands. I think he's pretty much a complete player. You wish he was a little longer. I'm not too worried about it, because his style of play fits his body, fits his style of play. Style of play fits his body. So he was kind of known as late. Honestly, he was kind of known by a lot of people as second round. I've been having him in the first round in almost every mock, because I believe what I saw other people, NFL teams were going to see, and people were kind of getting on me. I would have him too high, but now we're starting to see. He's definitely in that conversation. I think he's an instant impact guy too. I think you plug him into an offense, it's gonna make him better, like right away. I really think so. See what Justin Jefferson did. They're not really the same. They're definitely not the same bodies, build, but I think similar instant impact like that. So definitely a guy to look out for in the first round. Another receiver, Nico Collins, the big body receiver from Michigan. He has his pro day, and we know, where his strengths are. Contested catch, he's really good in the red zone when we watch him play. So usually with those guys, the questions you have, before the pro day or the combine, we didn't have the combine this year. So before he kind of gets checked out, is he really that tall? Everybody ends up being shorter. I don't know what schools are doing. They're listing guys way bigger than they actually are. So that's kind of the question. And the question is, for his style of play, does he have the speed? Well, he checks out at 6'4", so he checks out, pretty much right around the same size he was listed. It's very rare that a guy like that, usually these guys come in at 6'2" maximum. And he ran in the 4.4s, which is fantastic. You kind of go back and watch on film, and you can see the speed show up. Even though he has that speed, the separation is still a little bit of a question. I think he can get it with the speed, but I think it's more the twitch, the quickness, and the footwork. Could be a little better, but he's got such a good contested catch ability. He's a really good red zone player. But at the same time, are these players working out the next level? A few years ago, we see Laquan Treadwell. That's one of the best red zone receivers I've ever seen in the college level, recently. And he just didn't work out. They couldn't even give him the ball because he couldn't get the separation. They didn't care if he can go up and get it in the red zone. They're looking for guys that can get more of the separation. That's today's NFL. That's just one example of many. So I think he was, it's tough to peg exactly where, because there's some teams that probably you see him, he's fast, he's big body guy, he's got the good hands. Let's grab him, let's take him. I think there's a limited amount of those teams, so they may wait. Teams that do like him, but kind of 4-5 to maybe late 3, early 4 now. The pro day definitely helped him, but teams just may rather just take because there's so many of those. There's a lot of slot guys that could play outside that are so good at separating. Teams may just rather, we're going to get this guy, we're going to put him in there, he's going to help us win right now. Nico Collins could out win right now, but there is a question mark. Can he separate every time we do have him in? Because if we're going to draft this guy in the 3rd round, he's not going to play 90% of the snaps in a game, So we need him when he gets his chances. We need him to separate, number one. So that could be the problem there, but he has the speed. He showed that, but his stock is definitely up. Next, Quinn Miners. When we saw him put on a show at the Senior Bowl, D3 guy from Wisconsin Whitewater. Wisconsin Whitewater is well known as one of the best D3 schools, though. So they got some good ball players, some tough kids over there. And, Senior Bowl puts on a clinic, one-on-ones. They got him blocking all kinds of different guys that rush off the edge, interior guys, and he's bullying them, putting them in the ground. So throughout practice, he looked dominant. But you can't base everything off, just practice, even though it is important. But you start to watch the film, he did the same stuff in game. He is playing D3 players, but then had his workout, and he showed that, because where his strengths are, he just bullies guys. He bodies them. He uses his strength, but then he shows that he has way more athleticism as well to stack on top of it. So, it's all adding up. You kind of question this because it's a D3 guy, but is he athletic enough? And he shows that, first, is he strong enough? He's just a D3 kid. He shows that, but then he stacks the athleticism on top of that. So, hearing a lot about him after the Senior Bowl, maybe there was a little bit, some people saying maybe he can sneak in round 2, but it was mainly round 3, and some people kind of keeping him maybe early day 3 just because he's a D3 guy. But now, it sounds like there's a lot of teams that really like this kid, and he very easily can go round 2. Like an Ali Marpet type deal here, another small school kid that ended up being, he just won a Super Bowl, dominant guard. And Miners could play guard or center at a high level. It feels like a plug-and-play guy, too. So, you start another one of those guys, you start to wonder, what if he can sneak in at the end of the 1st round? I don't think it happens, but it's something, see a D3 kid do it. So his stock is up. Moving on, Jason Away was a pretty obvious one. Him and Micah Parsons put on a show. Micah Parsons kind of did in the range of what was expected, so I don't think his stock really changed. But it was an impressive, this isn't who dominated a pro day. Obviously, this is just whose stock is up. So people are probably going to wonder where Parsons at because he had a good pro day as well. But it was almost expected, maybe a little faster than expected. Jason Away, we started to hear that he would run that. He had his own workouts with his trainers, and we hear that all the time, that they're running 4.3s there, but then they go run 4.5s, 4.6s. That happens all the time. But he actually ran what he was running with the trainer, ran low, high 4.3s, which is ridiculous for a guy like this. So his stock is definitely up. It's just one of those guys that, you want to work with. Coaches they would love to work with this guy. They're going to be dying to get this guy. Defensive coaches, defensive line coaches. It's the guy with the ultimate upside. There's been guys like this in the past, built like this, similar frames, similar build, style of play, and athletic, testing numbers. But he's faster than them at the same time. A lot faster. Stops the run at a pretty high level. Does need more production as a pass rusher, but teams will want to work with him. So I think he goes 1st round. I don't think he gets out of the 1st round. And he was kind of in the same boat as Gregory Rousseau from Miami, who was kind of that freaky guy with the upside, but a guy like that didn't test athletically as anywhere near a guy like Away did. So that also helped the stock as well because they, even though they're not really that similar, they're only similar in they're freaky dudes with a lot of upside and they play the same position. That's the only way they were similar, but it kind of separated them. So if teams are on the fence, which guy would you want? I think more are going to side towards Away. So that is another reason why his stock is up. Jalen Phillips, who's been my guy since day one. I've been talking about him a lot. Soon as I think I watched edge rushers first. As soon as the offseason hit, I watched edge rushers, and it was just so obvious pretty early on that I thought he was the best one right now. The one that can make that biggest impact, had the best traits, pass rush moves, length, ridiculous. So that stood out to me. So I had him as pass rusher 1. He's going to remain that. Now he's starting to become more people's pass, edge rusher 1, and maybe some teams will review that as well. He does have a little bit of injury concern. The concussions, I think the concussions scare people more than it actually will scare teams in the NFL. I think the term medically retired is so misleading, because people say he retired. It's not really what happened. He had just UCLA, he just came in, was a 5-star recruit, just had a couple concussions in a short period of time. So like, it's just, you're a kid. We can't let you play. And he just goes to Miami. Miami, I hate to put UCLA on blast there, but Miami's a little tougher out there. And they're going to put him in there. The NFL, guys get concussions. Sometimes they miss a week. They're back in there. They got better ways of dealing with things, making sure they recover. So I don't think teams are really worried about that. Maybe there's a couple. People are blowing it out of proportion. I think because of that term, medically retired, and people are changing it to retired. He retired. It's not the same thing. It's just not. But I understand why people kind of get confused. Going to Miami Pro Day, we knew he was going to test pretty well. Knew he's a freaky dude, really good player. But then kind of, even though I even thought Phillips was better than Russo, all eyes were still on Russo, even for myself. What is this freaky guy going to do? There was more hype around him for that Pro Day, and Phillips just was the show. He dominated it. He's the best pass rusher from that group right now. He is the most athletic, the best tester right now. And people forget that he has upside too, because he doesn't have that many reps under his belt. He's a 5-star recruit. He shows he can get better. This is number one in the class. And, maybe he doesn't fit everybody. For me, I think he fits any scheme, but maybe a strictly a 4-3, team would rather have Kwity Paye or something like that. But, I think he's kind of late one to, he was kind of mid to late one. Now it's kind of early to mid one. I think there's a shot he can go earlier. Because again, I don't think teams are as worried as some people out there, fans are, in terms of the health concerns, if that's what you want to call it. But yeah, definitely up. Carlos Basham, we actually talked about him in the boom or bust, video as well. And, a big reason he could be a bust because, he was a really good player. He's got top end potential, but why he could bust, some people view him as kind of overweight and, maybe they put him in a different position where he doesn't belong. Maybe more like a 3-4 end or a 4-3 team slides him inside, and that's not where he played. That's not where he dominated, and that could create the bust effect because it's a different league. Now guys that weigh 280 plus don't play pass rusher. Some of them still do, but the league is changing. So looking for lighter guys, even as 4-3 defensive ends. But he showed up as pro day. Pro day was yesterday, 274. I think he was 281 before. So what is that? 7 pounds lighter. And a guy that big where he wins because of his power, and because of his hand technique, his hand power. And even though for a powerful guy, he does have some good moves. For a guy like that weighs 274, he runs a 4.64. This is huge for Carlos Basham Jr. This could be a first-round pick right here. He could still possibly go early too, very possible. I think one of those 4-3 teams that are looking for pass rushers, looking for proven guys, and they may take him late one. Looking at teams like the Buffalo Bills, just one example around there. I think they could take him around one here. He ends up being more of a safer pick, I think, because of this. So I'm excited about that. That big of a dude. And a lot of these dominant 4-3 ends, I was talking about it, a lot of these dominant 4-3 ends are that good, number one, because I think the way they use their hands technique, just the usage, the strength, power. Guys like Nick and Joey Bosa, for an example, Myles Garrett. And Myles Garrett's an absolute freak as well. So is Nick Bosa. Danielle Hunter, these 4-3 ends, that's the main reason why they're so good. And I think, so that's an easy path for Basham. So that's fantastic. And the difference was those guys are running freaky times, in their 40, and you kind of think Basham might run an okay time, 4.8. But he goes and runs a 4.64. So that's huge, absolutely huge for him. Next, Jalen Davis, man, he's really, there was a time where he was kind of considered a round 3 guy, and people start raving about him. The combination of athleticism and, I guess power to attacking the ball through the hole in the backfield, making the play, but really standing out in coverage. He played a lot of man coverage where he'll cover guys downfield, and that stands out. I don't know if he did anything crazy. Tennessee game he did, but I think he's just really good in coverage, and it has some upside. You see like guys with Devin White were doing, he's not Devin White though. At the same time, he's not going to go fly across the field and murder somebody. I shouldn't put it that way, but just, he has potential to do that. He does fill holes pretty well and dominates the line of scrimmage as well, so you love to see that. He possibly could be round 1. I'm still a little more comfortable early 2, but you do see the upside here. You see the coverage ability. He's got to work with everything else. And then he has his pro day, and I heard scouts clocked him in the 4.3s, but it ended up being, 4.4s. But there was a scout out there that said 4.37 or 9, something like that, which is ridiculous. Even if it's not that, you kind of see the upside here. You see how freaky he is. So he's been a big-time climber because, again, he was once round 3, but then there was a lot of round 2 talk, and now there's a lot of round 1, back end of the round 1 team looking for. And I think you can fit 3-4 inside. I think you can fit 4-3 outside. I think he's just got a lot of upside here, a big-time ceiling. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. His teammate, Calvin Joseph, his stock is up. He started to get some buzz not too long ago as well, kind of sneaking in the second round. Now it's, he could be a late 1 or early 2 guy. Really good workout, ran in the 4.3s, legit 4.3s at his pro day. That's fantastic. Speed is, it's a big part. It's not everything, but it's actually close for cornerbacks. You see the ones that have success in the NFL, they got enough speed, and he's got plenty of speed. He's got good physicality. Stood out in cover 1, man press, cover 4, which I like. So he can go a lot. He was a top recruit as well. Went to LSU. It didn't work out that well. Kentucky had a damn good defense. People don't realize how good that defense was. They were giving up a lot of points. You're playing Alabama. You're playing teams like that, so it's going to happen. But their defense was always on the field. So it's a team where if you look at the box score, look at the scores, look at the record, you won't realize it. But this was realistically one of the better defenses in the country, and that's because of guys like Jalen Davis and Calvin Joseph here. So it's all about traits with corners. If you got physicality, you got experience with, being physical with man, press, and you can fly like this, you're that athletic, that long, they're going to take you earlier. So, he's kind of in the same boat as Tyson Campbell right now, guys that aren't, as big of names as some of those other guys, but they're going to go a lot earlier than you probably think. So he could sneak in late one, another Kentucky guy, stock up. Another corner, Greg Newsome. This one's a little old news, but you definitely had to throw him in there. We knew his stock was kind of going up. Right when the offseason started, he wasn't really on the radar. Like, we knew he was a good corner, but he just wasn't really being talked about enough. I think he really put on a show in that Ohio State game, and just really stepped up his game this year. Small sample size, though, I guess. But, more and more people start watching the tape, seeing how physical he is, how good he is, and man, more of an off-man guy, but still, that's impressive. Not afraid to come up and tackle, can make the hit. Was just dominant. Wasn't letting up anything down the field at all, like literally at all. Was not giving up the big plays. Team's going to love that. And then he has a really good pro day running in the 4.3, showing his athleticism off, his length. So, he's a guy we expect to go late 1 right now. So another stock up. Another cornerback, a really obvious one, J.C. Horn. He was kind of sitting around that cornerback 3 range. And now, I think he's cornerback 1 for most people out there. Coach, they always value the most physical, the guy that is best in press, man coverage. Those guys will most of the time be at the top of the board. That's what he is on tape, and then he shows up to his pro day, and he ends up being, that 4.3s number, even if you want to call him 4.4s, if it was a combine, that speed with his physicality, ridiculous physicality, is absolutely rare. So I'm at the point where I would not super shocked. I'd kind of be surprised, though, if he wasn't taken first, just because all those signs point towards what coaches, defensive coaches love the most. We don't have to teach the physicality now. We don't have to teach the press. We don't have to teach the athleticism. Why don't you want to teach those things? Because you usually can't teach those things. You usually can't. He's got them. And right now he's refining his technique a little bit. So, apparently it's gotten better. So, that, shows he can improve as well. There's not much you have to work with here, and it's tough to find plug and play instant impact corners. They're kind of rare, at that high of a level where you're picking them, where you're valuing them top 10, inside the top 10, and I think you get that with J.C. Horn. So I think he's got to be most teams' cornerback 1, so it's big time for him. Obviously. And then real quick, some guys that I thought stock has gone down. I talked about corners. Caleb Farley, it's mainly because of the injuries, just had a minor procedure. Supposed to be good by training camp, but, yeah, and he opted out this year on top of that. And then he was hurt a couple years ago when he was playing. He was getting a little beat up too. So, and doesn't have a long time at cornerback position on top of all those things. So lack of experience, but it also shows he could have some upside as well. But he doesn't have, that press ability like Surtain, let alone J.C. Horn. So I think he's a very talented dude, a lot of upside, but his stock has gone down because of that. We kind of talked about when I was talking about Jalen Phillips, talked about Gregory Rousseau a little bit. He opted out this year, and he doesn't have the best tape off the edge, solid, but not the best. A lot to work on there, playing the edge rush position. That's kind of based off the tape before. That's stuff we already knew. But then, you look at the freaky length, and you kind of see maybe some upside as as an athlete. And you expect him to test way better. He doesn't really test all that, well at all, really. So for a guy that's labeled an upside guy, you kind of need that athletic ability, which he has it on the field, but you wish there was more of it. Like Jason Oweh, he's an upside guy. Didn't have that great tape off the edge, but at least he's running 4.3s, and he's absolutely, it kind of matches up with his freak build. It didn't match up fully here. So he could drop down. I didn't mention with Caleb Farley. Caleb Farley, I think, is still going to go first round, but he's definitely, there was talk about 10. I think he's going to go way later than that, but first round still. Rousseau, I think, could actually fall out of the first round. It's gonna be damn close in my opinion. Remember, all it takes is really one team just to fall in love with them, and then they can take them. That's why the draft's fantastic. It's the best time of the year because there's a lot of surprises. Pretty unpredictable because we just don't. You could think all you want, you can predict all you want. We are not in the war room with these teams. What they're thinking, what their idea is. So somebody could still take him. He's got pretty good production from the inside, so maybe a team like him there. Tutu Atwell. His numbers were pretty good, testing numbers at his pro day, but he weighed in at 155. I really don't have a problem with that. I'm more of a guy, you can play. I've always been like that. 155, though, and just think about the coaches, the executives, the scouts. A lot of those guys are still the old school guys. They're going to see 155, and I'm telling you, I don't. This is not my opinion on what I would do, but I am telling you, there are guys, there are coaches, whatever, in the league, they see 155, and they scratch them off. That sometimes, it's a different era, but there are, it's probably only a few, but there are teams that probably did that. It's harsh as hell, but that just what happens. So him winning at 155, and I think he ran low 4.4s, which is flying. People kind of forget these days how fast that is, but in their minds, if you're going to weigh 155, you better be coming after John Ross, Chris Johnson, so he's a really good slot receiver, really good, knows how to get open, dangerous, give him the ball almost in any way. Some team, he can still, sneak in the third round perhaps. I'm probably thinking more 4 or 5. Because teams may we don't like his weight, but we know other teams are really not going to like his weight, but we still like him. We can wait a little bit, Still a good football player. Daz Newsome, I was starting to, once I watched the tape on Daz Newsome, some more, I was actually starting to really fall down on him. And then his pro day shows up and doesn't help. But why? Daz Newsome played in the slot a lot, big, relied on his athletic ability, which it worked. He was kind of a home run guy, big playability, got some speed, some quickness, but a lot, didn't really do anything, just felt like a college slot receiver that relied on his athleticism. A lot of body catches, just didn't do anything. Those slot receivers, you look at Justin Jefferson last year, you got to do some ridiculous things. Elijah Moore this year, for an example. So he was already starting to fall down my board, and I was assuming, other teams are seeing that as well. And then he runs in the 4.6s. Now, the tape is more important. He is a lot faster than 4. Maybe he's trying to put on a little strength. That's what happened. So maybe that's kind of a bad thing. But I think he's faster than that on the field. But I guess it's more quick than fast, I suppose. So that did not help his case at all. There was a time maybe before the season was over where people were talking about, day 2 guy here. But, man, unfortunately, there's a shot he can go undrafted, I think. It might be 6th round, 6 to 7 to undrafted possibility, which is kind of a bigger name guy, so that's unfortunate. Paris Ford, there was some people hyped on Paris Ford even during the season. I never got there. He's a good football player. Some people talking about day 2. I never got there, so I was always kind of an early day 3. But what he does at his pro days runs a 4.9. 4.9. There's offensive linemen running faster than that. So I don't know if he was hurt, I don't know. I know you just can't run that at a pro day. It's not the combine, a pro day, and almost get away with it. It's unfortunate because he's a pretty good. That's the thing. He's a good playmaker. He can read. That's his thing. He can read the ball from the back end. Those guys have to be fast, and he looks a lot faster than 4.9, I guess, on tape. But teams see that, and they might go, nope. It's harsh, but that's what happens here. So that's a guy, kind of in the same boat as Newsome. He might be a guy that we once thought could maybe be a 4th-round pick, 6th undrafted. That 4.9 might be killer. It could be 7th undrafted there, so in that range. So that's tough. There's some other guys that probably slightly went stock down. I mainly wanted to focus on the positives here. What to look out for in terms of the climbers. And, I mainly wanted to focus on guys that we know for sure their stock is down right now as well. I didn't want to put any maybes in there. I don't want to mess around with that. So we're going to have a lot more videos like this, plenty of them on the way, plenty of mock drafts, member mock drafts, all that fun stuff. Fan voted mock on Twitter, always talking NFL news on Twitter as well. So join us for that. Check all that out. Subscribe, smash that like button. Let me know with your stock up, stock down, guys, in the comments. That'd be pretty cool. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.